My name's Tyler, one of the members of the TriGents, and Riot Games put out patch 5.8 yesterday, about 20 hours ago from doing this. So this patch rundown's a little bit late, but there's a couple big changes to go over here. So this one's probably going to be a little bit quicker. I'm going to do my best to explain some stuff. This is actually like really the first time I've read this in depth. So yeah, below in the comments, leave your opinions on any of the changes that Riot has done. There's a couple champion reworks coming as well, so make sure you definitely check those out. Ashen, we're gonna go over Rise here. So yeah, let's get started. So I'm not gonna go over the casting changes. This is really just super generic stuff. You can just change the quick cast and smart casting, things like that, just with range indicators. Really not that huge, but some people were not a fan. Okay, so Rise got his overhaul, so to speak. So general, yeah, okay. So his base mana regen went down, probably because they think they buffed him pretty significantly here. So they're putting his mana regen down because that takes away some of his laning power. But his mana regen growth in general, so like the mana regen he gets per level, goes up slightly. That's a little bit of a compensation. But I think in the long run, I think that's better late game, but it hurts his early game. I would need, yeah, that should be correct. I don't actually know. And armor, he gets less armor per level, but Rise has, his build paths, usually he'll go Frozen Heart because Rise likes the mana because he scales off mana. And he likes this cooldown reduction as well. So the armor is really not that big of a deal. Again, it hurts his early laning phase. So I'm guessing that with these changes, Riot thinks that they've buffed Rise's early game. So they're toning down some of his base stats to compensate. Okay, Rise's passive. His old passive was the thing where he would get, like, all of his abilities would lower the CD of everything else by 1. So you would just basically spam all your buttons and just rotate through your abilities. Now there's a little bit of actual strategy to it. So basically you get stacks for every spell you use, and it lasts for 12 seconds, and at 5 stacks you get, like, a big bonus. You get a shield that scales off your mana plus your level. So late game, that's pretty huge. And again, the cooldown of the other spells. Whenever causing a spellcast to reduce the cooldown of his others, overloads cooldown to a minimum. Okay, so basically when he casts his other spells, it'll go down by 20.25 seconds. Because I mean, his Q already has a really short cooldown, so it's an interesting change to his passive. Ryze is such a spammable champion that he'll be able to take advantage of this anyway, especially because it's lasts 12 seconds. So I'm going to assume that the timer resets after every stack. So you'll be able to get it in like 1.5 rotations of your spells. So that's still pretty strong. His Q, he no longer gives CDR. Okay, so Ryze's Q got the Vigor treatment. And for those of you who don't know what the Vigor treatment was, essentially his Q went from being a targeted spell to a skill shot. But I don't know how that's going to work for Ryze. I mean, they upped the range of it because that's how they're going to compensate it, and they lowered the base mana cost of it. So that's like the compensation for it. Actually, they compensated pretty significantly for it, but they didn't with Vigor at all, which is interesting. It seems like it's 50 width. That's okay. 50 width is okay. So it won't be that hard to hit, but it's definitely going to be a learning curve with the champion now. You can't just like spam all your abilities. You need to actually like think, kind of. So yeah, range went up to 900. Mana cost went down. That's really nice. I mean, Rise has like a butt ton of mana in his build, usually from like Rod of Ages and Frozen Heart anyway. Even Tear if you're greedy. But it's definitely nice for his early laning, because that's currently like Rise's biggest issue, among other things, is that he's so bad in the early game. There's no reason to play him. The damage went up across all levels of Q as well, so this is definitely going to be the spell you want to max first, 100%. They did tone down the mana ratio though in return for upping the damage and the mana cost and lowering the mana cost. But then they also upped the AP ratio. So his Q will do less damage scaling off mana, but it'll still do some. but it'll do more damage scaling off AP, which is interesting. Like, Rod of Ages is just going to be a great item on Rise still. And the cooldown was up 0.5 seconds. That's not that significant. I mean, really, when you're comboing it with your passive, it's just like one extra spell rotation. That's not. It's one extra spell. It's not even a rotation. It's not even that bad. Rise's W. So they slightly upped the damage at level 1, but then they lowered it at all other ranks, which is fine. I mean, most of your damage is going to come off your Q and your E anyway. So having W is not a big deal because it's just going to be your CC ability anyway. They actually reduced their damage everywhere. Like, they lowered the maximum mana scaling and they lowered the AP scaling as well. Still a pretty good. It's still a point and click CC spell though, so it's really helpful. It's really good for top lane too. You can set up ganks and you can use your teleport. His E, so it'll reduce magic resist still when it bounces around, and you can actually stack it. So, yeah, okay. So it stacks 3 times now. So it can and it can actually hit 6 targets. Okay. Okay. So the damage is pretty decent. They didn't really change a whole lot with the actual damage part. The big change for spell Flux is that the magic resist that it lowers now is percentage based, which is probably that's actually pretty good. That's actually really good. If you can get the spell Flux to like bounce off and hit the same person 3 times, like if it's just like you and a minion in between, that's really strong. That's a huge trading tool, huge dueling tool. His ultimate, they raised the cooldown at rank 1, but it's lower at rank 3, which is whatever. I don't really care. It lasts a shorter amount of time now, which is interesting. But increases Arcane Mastery's duration. Oh, interesting. Interesting. So his ultimate is going to give him insane cooldown reduction, but I wonder if that stacks. Actually, I wonder if Frozen Heart's going to be good on him anymore, because with Rise you want 40% CDR, but if your level 3 ultimate's going to give you 30% CDR, you only need like you only need 10%, and you're going to hit cap. So unless this stacks, which it shouldn't, your build will probably be something like Rod of Ages tier, and then like, I don't know, some CDR item. Even Ionian boots. I mean, they're probably not ideal, but I could see them working. You could even take 10 CDR from. Well, you can at least take 7.5%. No, you can get 10 CDR from your Runes and Masters, I think. Actually, you might not even have to build CDR on Rise anymore. You could probably get away with like Rod of Ages, tier, Zanyas, and Void Staff. You could probably do that. But then you also want mana. Rise's build paths are going to be interesting, though. I'm going to be interested to see what they do. My cat's eating. Cat! She's eating paper. Whatever. Ari, just kind of like a bug fix. It used to stop unstoppable abilities, but whatever. Bard. Actually, 1 second. I'm just going to get my cat. God bless. Okay, sorry about that. Bard, chimes will avoid spawning in the enemy jungle. I mean, that's just like a quality of life thing. It was kind of annoying because you'd have to like sometimes charms would randomly appear in the enemy jungle if you happen to walk close to it, which is annoying. And it also, the experience actually scales per minute now, which before it was actually pretty useless. But this is kind of nice. Bard is actually in a really good spot. People just need to learn him. Like, before he was on release, he was terrible, but now he's actually not bad. Blitzcrank, they definitely went overboard with his nerf in the last patch. I didn't think it was going to be that bad, not going to lie, but I was definitely wrong. So they kind of toned back the nerf a little bit. The slow was too overbearing, and it kind of took away from Blitzcrank. Like, he went from being played a lot to never played at all. So this is nice for Blitzcrank. He might get play again. Yeah, I could see him getting play again, because he's still that same fun champion. Kaitlyn, Nothing really that huge. Increased visibility when placed in brush. Yeah, it's like a little bit of a ward, I guess. No, no, it's not a ward. It's enemies can see them clear. That's what it is. So again, whatever, not much. Dr. Mundo, yeah, you can just like see how much health regen you're getting. Plus on your cleaver now, when you kill something with it, you'll get the health cost back. But very very rarely do you actually kill something with it. I mean, actually, I lied. For top lane, you do. Wow, that actually helps. I was thinking of jungle Mundo, but no, for top lane, this actually helps a lot because a lot of the time, because your early game's so weak on Dr. Mundo, you're going to be farming with your cleaver anyway. So this is actually really nice for him. It definitely gives him a little bit of extra sustain in lane. It's not too significant, but it does add up. And especially in this tank meta right now with Cinderhulk, Mundo's actually pretty good. Riot kind of missed the ball. Riot kind of dropped the ball with his Graves nerf because Graves isn't that good on this patch anymore. Because with the tank meta and all the tanks and stuff, like Graves doesn't do enough consistent damage. He's more bursty. That's why you're starting to see some of these burst champions like fall out of the metagame. So essentially, they made his burst higher, but yeah, like they made his up close damage higher, but when you're farther away, it's not that. Yeah, basically. I don't know. Graves kind of sucks right now, in my opinion. Jinx got a much needed nerf for sure. She's currently like one of the top tier 80 carries with like Kog'Maw. Vayne's actually pretty good right now. Lucian. Yeah, I guess those guys. Jinx is probably actually the best AD carry in the game. And right now, it's like, her ultimate's supposed to be an execute, but in reality, like, you can just fire it at someone at point-blank range, and you're completely fine. But now they made it so if you do fire it at point-blank range, it'll literally do no damage. Fuck off, cat. Holy shit. So this is a definite nerf to Jinx. But it doesn't change her execute in the slightest. It just changes the fact that she can't blast you in the face for no reason. Kha'Zix's W heals slightly higher at earlier ranks. That's definitely a buff to Jungle Kha'Zix, which is really nice. Jungle Kha'Zix is really fun to play. One of the most fun champions in the game for sure. This will help us sustain in the early game because at the moment he really has none. So this will definitely encourage people to take W earlier. It won't encourage them to max it at all, but yeah, this just helps. This is the buff that I hope Gangplank gets at some point on his W. Basically, it no longer, like when you cast your Creeping Death at the moment, like Creeping Death's your shield, you currently stop for a second, and like it has a cast time. But now it's an instant cast, which is really, really nice for Mordekaiser. I hope Gangplank gets that as well with his Remove Scurvy or his Eating Oranges. And Nunu's going to get the same treatment here. It'll automatically target the nearest ally, which is all that kind of like takes away from the skill. Because like Nunu, we're going to get to Nunu right here. Nunu's already like such a brain dead champion to play. And now he's like even more brain dead. You don't even have to aim your W, it just hits someone. Which is, although I would like to see the range. Like, does it just, if you're like near no one, if you're in your own jungle, will you just like randomly blood boil someone? I don't know. Speaking of Nunu, they nerfed him slightly. They nerfed his how much health he gets per level, which is good because as of right now, like he can consume the golem or the fuck, what's it called? The buffs, the blue and red buffs, and he'll just be insanely tanky with Cinderhulk. So this is going to make him a little less overbearing and a little bit easier to play against. Pantheon gets that quality of life change that Twisted Fate and Shen both got. Actually, yeah, Shen has it, and Rek'Sai has it as well. Basically, when you ultimate, it's like, I'm on my way, so your team's not brain dead, and they actually respond. Quality of life change for Shen is definitely a buff as well. Basically, when you ult before, it kind of places you like on top of your ally. Now it'll actually place you in between the person you ulted and the closest enemy, which is actually pretty nice, because it puts you in a taunt range, puts you in better taunt range, and because Shen's usually tanky anyway, he's not gonna die. Like, he's not a big threat, so. Sion's currently like one of the gods of top lane because he just doesn't die. Like, because he can just utilize his passive and his shield, and he can clear it, and it won't even matter. So what they've done to kind of counteract this is that they've actually nerfed his W, so it's harder for him to trade in lane, and it's harder for him to do the wolf camp or the raptor camp. So you have to wait longer now to detonate your shield, plus it doesn't give you as much health. It scales per level, which is interesting because I think you max it second. I think it's preference if you max it second or third, but this might push to max it second now, because they nerfed the E a couple patches ago, and Q's already your first max. So Sion's still really good though. He's still definitely really good. Twitch, they kind of like a bug fix here. Your ultimate can now hit inhibitors and the Nexus before it couldn't. So bug fix for work as well. Your blood scent now kicks in right away when you find someone with low HP, which is nice. I mean, Warwick's still garbage, but that's fine. They're fixing one of the many Xerath bugs that exist in the game. Basically, this bug here is if you press R and you're spamming R, you can accidentally ult yourself. So that's not supposed to happen, and they fixed that, which is nice. I don't know if anyone here browses the League of Legends subreddit, but with Yasuo, someone says that this is actually a nerf, even though they tried to make it a buff. Honestly, the guy on the Reddit thread, credit to him, he did the math on this as a Yasuo only player or something. Basically, what they tried to do, they tried to make the shield strength, like they tried to make the shield stronger, but it took longer to charge. But overall, that's like, it's not really worth it, because the time that you really want the shield to build it up is in the early game when you're trading in lane. But if you make it harder to charge in the lane, I mean, it's not like you're going to be running around all the time. You're just going to be sitting in lane farming. So you're not even going to have the shield up consistently. So is this really a good compensation in terms of the shield strength? Probably not. Probably not. Yeah, I don't know. If I can find the Reddit thread, I'll link it in the description. Texture rebalances for a whole bunch of champions, and now they're done with the texture rebalances. So it took 7 months apparently. That's pretty insane. Okay, this is the biggest change of the patch for sure, right here. It has nothing to do with the champion either. Black Cleaver is now insanely OP. So what they did was, essentially, it's insanely good on junglers and top laners now. Like those bruisers. For example, Xin Zhao is probably insane. After I'm done with this, I'm going to go like playtest this. Okay, so basically, it builds out of Phage and Kindle Gem, which, okay, that's like immediately two great items. Phage is an insanely good item. The only problem with it is that it really builds into nothing, which is a big issue. Especially for junglers, because you're not really going to build Frozen Mallet or Triforce unless you're like no one. So, and Kindle Gem's already a super strong item. Like it's really gold efficient with the HP and CDR it gives, which is good. So it's a super ideal recipe. They removed the armor penetration off of it because there's no longer brutalizer. It now gives 400 HP instead of 200. It gives slightly less attack damage at 40. 20% CDR. It gives you higher, and the armor shred stacks go up, and the armor shred duration is higher. But that's not even the broken part. That's already strong. Like, it's already a strong item as it is right there. But then, and here's what makes it ridiculous, when you hit someone with physical damage, you get movement speed for 2 seconds. But then if you kill something, you get extra armor shred plus extra movement speed. That's like, it's basically like if a Xin Zhao jumps on you, you're gone. As an AD carry, there's already so much in this meta that's destroying you anyway. And now this is like, holy moly. This reminds me at the beginning of Season 3 when there was a thing called League of Black Cleavers, where basically you could build 5 Black Cleavers because they used to stack. So you would just insta-kill someone and be ridiculously tanky. This is going to need a nerf within one patch, I'll bet. This is insane. This is absolutely bonkers. There's like no counterplay to this. It's insanely gold efficient. Like, this is a really cheap item actually. 3,000 gold for what it gives you. Like, this passive is probably worth like 1,400 gold, plus the Phage and the Kindle Gem. Like, the Kindle Gem's worth like, what is it, 850 gold? But it's probably got like a 1,000 gold value, which is really, really good. I don't actually know. I would have to look it up, or do the math. But yeah, Black Cleaver, super OP. Too long didn't read. Recurve Bow, they just made the build path better, plus they made it do 10 damage on hit, which is, I mean, that's kind of nice. What it's really nice for is people who build Hurricane and, well, basically people who build the items out of it, I guess. It makes the build paths a lot cleaner. Like Wit's End, fuck, what's the other item? Runan's Hurricane and Devour, the jungle enchantment. I think Devour is the big thing this helps here, because before the 2 daggers were essentially useless, but now with the Recurve Bow, plus the passive on it, it's actually not bad. Blade of the Ruined King got buffed to compensate for the 80 carries doing nothing because of all the tanks in the meta right now. So Blade of the Ruined King's kind of back to the state that it was at when it was released, in that it was way stronger. So you're on hit now, you can lifesteal off the on hit part of it, plus it has a new gold recipe, which is a lot more helpful. Like Bilgewater plus Recurve Bow instead of double dagger. So it creates more space in your item inventory, which is huge. So you can buy wards. Please buy wards. Passive minimum damage. That's interesting. Blade of the Ruined King, definitely more helpful now for 80 carries. Once the tanks are... My only concern is that once the tanks are gone, they're probably going to have to nerf it again. That's my only concern. The only thing okay, so they changed they made the gold cost go up here. It gains the new Recurve Bow passive plus the new recipe. Well, it doesn't actually need the new recipe, I lied. So basically they just slightly upped the gold cost, plus they gave it the 10 physical damage on hit, so nothing huge. Wit's End, same thing as above, Recurve Bow, they changed the build path. Devour enchantment, same thing, they changed the build path. This is really helpful because the 2 daggers were definitely useless. So this is very, very helpful. Righteous Glory, they made the health go down a little bit. Righteous Glory is currently the go-to item on some supports, tanky junglers, and certain top laners. So this is a step at nerfing it. This really is nothing though. It's a slight nerf and nothing significant. So whatever. Still a great item. Please buy it still. Okay, I'm not going to go into the math on this dragon buff thing. Okay, so we're out of the items, we're into the actual map stuff. This is the only change of Summoner's Rift, and then this is going to be the end of it. Basically, Dragon wasn't applying the 6% ratio correct, or the 6% additional ratio correctly for AD on the first Dragon buff. So the way it works is essentially your your auto attacks weren't doing as much as they were supposed to, and your spells were doing more than they were supposed to. But this is a change that aimed at fixing that. So now your spells are going to deal slightly less, but your auto attacks will deal more. I think in the long run, it's honestly not a big deal unless you're playing like some burst AD, like Graves, Talon, Zed, etc. It definitely makes a difference for them. But for AD carries who actually utilize the AD passive, or even some junglers or top laners, this is like, this definitely fixes some issues, really. All this stuff here, don't really need to go over this stuff. Some ARAM changes. I don't play ARAM, not gonna lie, so I don't really want to comment on it. Some bug fixes here, and yeah, that's basically it for the patch notes. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comments. Comment your opinions on any of these changes as well, down below. And yeah, that's about all I got. Alright, thanks for watching, guys.